You're welcome back to the Gavel. The Senate set up a committee to investigate the fraudulent activities in the accounting of internally generated revenue by revenue-generating government agencies. Now, the committee is to investigate if statutory transfers to the consolidated revenue account, as requested by law, are done accurately by government agencies. We had an interview with the chairman of the committee, Senator Adeola Olamilekon, to learn more about the ongoing investigation.
There was a motion on the Senate floor where it was reported that there are fraud in the remittance of IGR into the federal government purse. That is under remittances, diversion of government revenue, hiding under disguise of frivolous expenditure aid by the parastatals and agencies of the federal government across the country. On that note, the motion was put before the Senate, and the Senate gave the go-ahead that an investigation be carried out to look into the under remittances and fraud in terms of IGR being remitted into the federal government purse. While the Senate was preparing for this, the federal government, through the Minister of Finance, came out to the public through the media with a public outcry that over 340-something billion naira was not remitted by major agencies of the federal government as contained in the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
In your findings, which MDAs have been guilty or complicit in this action of not remitting, into the consolidated revenue account?
Some of these agencies that we have found out that has flouted this include the National Petroleum Corporation, the NNPC. They are responsible to remit more than 60% of the internally generated revenue that's to accrue to the federal government of Nigeria. Agencies like the Bureau of Public Enterprises and many more like that. While there are some agencies of the government, like all the general hospitals, all the colleges and tertiary educations, they are all not funded. They are funded with the federal budget, and they still generate revenue. And what do we have at the end of the day? What the fiscal responsibility clearly states is that 80% of your operational surplus. And what do we mean by that? I haven't recognized all the approved expenditure and all your revenue. Whatever is remaining, which must be an excess of income over expenditure, 80% of that excess is to be remitted into the Consolidated Revenue Fund account. And these agencies started taking advantage of the federal government and started diverting off this fund, building up heads in the budget that are frivolous. I give you an instance. The wages and salaries, allowances of parastatals and the head of parastatals and its senior executive, medical trips abroad by all the agencies and parastatals, which are not allowed in the law setting up all these agencies of the government.
Now, what are the recommendations? Because at the end of this entire exercise, the committee will have to come out with a report and make recommendations. What are some of these recommendations you think that the committee will be making to the National Assembly and onward transmission to the executive to stop this problem?
Number one, I believe that the Fiscal Responsibility Act needs to be amended as soon as possible. There is an urgent need for us to revisit that act, most especially in the areas of the number of agencies that needs to remit to the coffers of the federal government, and also to review the definition of operational surplus as to what and what is visible that can be remitted that should be remitted by these agencies into the coffers of the federal government. That is one area. 2, there should be standardization in terms of salary structure, in terms of allowances accruing to these agencies, and in terms of medical, in terms of their medicals. There should be standardization as enshrined and contained by the Act of the National Assembly in respect of the entire 601 agencies of the federal government.
So I was wondering, the Treasury single account, has it helped in any way in curbing this practice? At least now, the pool of funds are going into a single account. Has it helped?
Yes. The issue of the Treasury single account, to a large extent, I won't say it's not working. It's working. But I want the federal government to be more proactive in the area of implementation. There should not be any sacred cow. I listened to the Accountant General of the Federation when he mentioned that about 9 trillion naira has been saved as a result of the Treasury single account. The question is this: do we have this 9 trillion naira in that account? Because we are made to understand that, yes, many of these agencies have been mandated to go into TSA. But at the point of defraying their expenditure, it still comes through into that TSA to get this money withdrawn out of the account. Some, they say they are too cumbersome, the process, and some, I said, yes, it is good. But we notice a trend going on now that many of these agencies are now applying that they be removed from the Treasury single account. And that is why I use the word there should not be any sacred cow. We, as a Senate, want the government to be as transparent as possible on the issue of the TSA. Because I give you an instance. Many of these agencies complain that the Honorable Minister of Finance go into their account and move money out of the account without any recourse back to them. That is not part of the achievement of the TSA. At a glance, the Honorable Minister of Finance, the Accountant General, can see what is contained in each of the accounts of all these agencies. Unlike in the past, where these agencies can keep their money in UBA Bank and the Minister of Finance will not have access to it. Once it leaves the Finance Ministry, it goes into UBA. Except the government is saying, okay, we want to mop up. Where are your books? Let us stand. They will now mop up the fund and take it back into the Consolidated Revenue Fund. No. The TSA now is a Treasury single account that is domiciled with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Should the National Assembly be looking at, giving legal backing to the TSA in the event of, a new administration can come in which may decide to jettison, the TSA? Is this something which you or your committee or the National Assembly should be looking at this point?
Given a legal teeth to the Treasury single account, I want to believe, is it not that we will be separating or taking out one of the functions of the Honorable Minister and the Accountant General and treating it as a legal matter? Because part of what we will be doing to TSA, we have to list agencies that have to be under TSA. We have to list the objective and functions of TSA. We have to say when and how you can withdraw from TSA. We have to say penalty for agencies of the government that refuse to go into TSA. We have to look at how bureaucratic nature will not affect TSA. We have to come on board with regulations on the banks that is warehousing this money, the Central Bank of Nigeria, that when and how money can be released and money can be taken out of TSA, and many more like that, if we are going to have a law in that direction. And I believe with that law, I don't know if the government of the day has to come with it, because it's an executive function. An executive needs to come up with a bill for the Treasury single account, because if it's a private member's bill, issues that I've raised with you concerning the way as to the application of this fund might not go down well with the executive, because it will be part of the bill that will be passed by the National Assembly.
Now, this is where we draw the curtains on this week's edition of The Gavel. Remember, if you have any opinions on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.